the first question is, so you've been using new technology, radio, it's not that new, but using radio and the website and social media and all of these kinds of things to gather information and to send information back in and to share information with all of us. But China Labour Bulletin is not known for making films.
No, including using new technology and radio is not for the sake of it. It's not to be fancy. It's about the film. It was all of a sudden from about a few years ago, I had a thought. There are so many these labor NGOs. They're working in defending workers' rights, and they are trying to create new ideas, which in China, in our history, lacking of, which is bargaining. Bargaining in a rational sense, and looking for solution rather than revolution. But these people, they work so hard, and they, as you said in the movie, and they involve in, different issues and detentions, but they still continue their work. Why? It's not only because they believe so, it's because there is consumption, let's put it that way. You have workers' strikes here and there and there and here. As one of the character, Zhang Zhiru from the Chunfeng Center said, they stopped for a couple of months, and without us, the strike's still going on. So the idea was that in the future, let's say in 50 years or 70 years, China will have bright future. We will have a very good economy development. We will have a very good human rights record, and the people are happy. But what if at that time these young people would take things as granted, and they forgot, they did not know where they came from? So the idea was to record these activities. At that time, when we, at least myself, wouldn't be there anymore, and those young people will always know where we come from, not only 50 years after, but maybe 100 years after, 150 years after. So those footages are very important for them. That was the idea. It wasn't really to make a film to become, get into the film industry.
Although this is being screened at film festivals, and in fact, Dongfang has to get on a plane tomorrow to screen it in Hong Kong. And so it is getting attention. Now, one of the things that we see in this is that it's not easy to organize. It takes time, it takes patience. Much of the time people are busy with their own lives. And so what are you hoping that this film and your activities at China Labour Bulletin, what does it contribute to helping all of these NGOs, these people who are giving of their own time and energy to try to help workers in factories that they may never have seen before?
I am someone looking for opportunities, although I'm not an opportunist. But looking for opportunities is different from highlighting problems. We constantly try to search for good chances. For example, you talk about the difficulty of organizing. Well, I don't really constantly think that way in this country. I don't know whether there are union people here or union members here. You have difficulties, and you saw the Walmart workers were making the white T-shirt with some words on it, and it says, our leader, Xi Jinping, said this, so therefore we follow him. What does that mean? And in this country, Walmart workers and the trade union here, how many years you have been fighting, and you still haven't got one single union organized. I remember one, but Walmart cut that section away. So you still don't have a union. in this country and Walmart. But in China, we have different leverage to take. What is that? It's the Communist Party. I remember once I had a bet with the UFCW, the former president, and I said, we will get Walmart workers organized before you in the US. He was laughing at me. He said, you're kidding me. You don't have freedom association. We have the democracy. I said, well, you have democracy, you have freedom association, but that is not Walmart afraid of. But we have communist, and we have a communist regime which is claimed as a working class representative. And there, as long as the Walmart want to stay in China to make money from China, they will have to go for that. And we have this different leverage. So therefore, this is just one example. There are so many different opportunities. For example, the Communist Party today, what kind of situation they are engaged with, and their legitimacy issue, and are they still representing workers? Of course not. And are they representing the owner of the factories? Yes or no? Are they representing themselves? Yes. So many corruptions, and then people lost trust on them. But in the same time, they want to maintain their power. They want to stay in power. That is a leverage. If you hate the communist, your aim is to get rid of it. That is not a leverage. That is not an opportunity. But if you don't have to hate anyone, you look for any leverage possible. And that is becoming an opportunity and leverage, which is how to really strategically putting the interests of Communist Party, the regime, and the workers organizing together to find a common space, one helping each other. So from this film, you don't see that, but from my eyes, I see that. I'm not the fortune teller, but I can see that opportunity in the future, how we can put the workers' interests and the Communist Party regime together, one helping each other.
So how the party will see its survival, its continued domination of China, as tied to improving the conditions for workers?
Well, it is obvious to me the party survive or not, it's a big question. But I mean, also who still within the party care about the Communist Party will survive or not? Really few. But one person care, I believe, Xi Jinping, the leader of Communist Party. Now he care about the Communist Party's survival because at least he care about his own survival. And he doesn't want the opposition, internal opposition, to set him into prison as the same as he said Bo Xilai and Zhou Yongkang into prison. So the internal struggle. He wants to survive. He wants to build his own legitimacy. But how? And in a week time, the 19th Party Congress will happen, and they will settle the power. And Xi Jinping is able to settle the power. Yes, I believe so. But settle the power to send internal enemies into prison or set them out is one thing. But to satisfy the 1.4 billion population, and we have many 100 million workers, is the other. If he cannot satisfy the workers and Chinese population, and doesn't matter how much he settled the internal power struggle, that wouldn't help him to permanently to be stable, to survive. So therefore, I believe at least we have potentially one ally, which is Xi Jinping, to potentially support the workers to gain the benefit of legally what they are entitled.
Does Xi Jinping know you want him as an ally?
I don't need him to know I'm a ally, but I need to know what he wants and what the trade union movement, what the workers want. That is good enough. And what workers want, if you see from the film, and you hardly can see anyone organizing strikes, helping workers to bargain. aiming to overturn the communist regime, aim to send away Xi Jinping. If the workers massively, if you see the map, how was the scale, and if the workers with that big scale of struggle don't want to aim the party, don't want to aim Xi Jinping, I don't see, rationally speaking, why the party and Xi Jinping will make many hundred millions of Chinese workers as their enemy. It's not rational. So therefore, I see great potential for this to be together. And especially after the party congress, we can see the delivery. After the power is settled, the delivery of livelihood, including farmers and workers. And I'm here working in the workers field. And how to deliver, how to settle the legitimacy among the workers. And the Communist Party has no solution, has no clue, because they're busy in control. They're not busy in delivering. But these guys, and my organization, the past 10 years, we have been working on a solution, which is workplace collective bargaining. And bargaining in the future will replace revolution. And bargaining will, to me, bargaining is for a contract. And the respect, the spirit of contract is the civilization, the symbol of civilization, of rule of law, if you like to put it that way. But if people do not have the chance to get involved into bargaining, and anything happen to them, they don't think it's a part of them. So it's very difficult for people to accept and to be rational about the result. Doesn't matter, even it is better than if the result that they bargained for, and they still don't feel happy. So that is what I can see the chances.
We see the organizers informing workers of their rights. That's how the film opens, with you have the right to this, you have the right to that, and workers saying, nonsense. We don't really have these rights, although they may be in law, because the owners and the state does not acknowledge them and does not act upon those. And so you were talking about the rule of law. China has a labor law, and these labor organizers are simply trying to hold the owners and the state accountable. And so maybe you could say a little bit more about the role of trade unions and the role of the state in terms of enforcing or not enforcing these laws.
Enforcing laws doesn't mean you producing more laws after another, one after another. This is a word, rule of law, what they say rule by law, some people interpret that way. This is the past, since 1978, the end of a Cultural Revolution. They try to build the judicial, the rule of law, rule by law in this country. But their understanding and their practice is basically making more laws, making more useless laws, and no one following the laws. But these people, the National People's Congress, and every year they gather together as a big party. They don't pass the laws, and plus these people, these members, are not full-time lawmakers. How can they make law? So that's Chinese law, including labor law, are made by bureaucrats, by scholars, no offense. Scholars are doing a good job, but they're not lawmakers. But in China, laws made by them. For example, labor law was passed in 1994, ineffective in 1995. How that law happened? The government, the state council, sent many tens of labor scholars to different countries, study, basically translated different countries' law, and they chose the best in looking and put them together, make Chinese labor law. That is one of the reasons this labor law in China, as a trade unionist, labor activist saying that way, it's too good to be true in this country. There's no base to practice that. It doesn't mean you have good law, you have good practice. So you have law is one thing, and you have the ground to practice. What is the ground? Lawyers, yes. Judges, yes. But workers organizing and trade unions. How to define the differences in between the role that the laws play and the courts play and the trade union play. That's why this film, what you can see everywhere, you hear every another minute about bargaining. So bargaining, to me and to us, labor movement, is the spirit of rule of law in the labor field. So that one, I would say this trade union movement and based on collective bargaining spirit is not only defending workers' rights. Yes, it is the best way to defend workers' rights, but in a broader sense, it is helping to set the very foundation of rule of law in this country. Because if you bargain with a bad deal this year and you sign it, you cannot just regret it, and 2 months later you say, I regret it. No, you can't, because you sign it. And you have to be clever the next round. So this is the respect of the spirit of contract. That is the foundation of rule of law.
One last question, then we'll go to the audience, and that's how does the growing economic inequality fit into this, and how does the anti-corruption campaign fit into your desire to foster greater collective bargaining, greater engagement between labor, management, and the state?
Well, you mentioned anti-corruption. This is a tricky field. Anti-corruption in the past 5 years gained Xi Jinping huge popularity. I wouldn't say more than Mao, but about. Because the corruption really destroyed the country and destroyed so many families' life. And especially you have social media now. In the 70s, 80s, 90s, the same thing, different format, but people didn't know. Now, everything people know through social media. The anti-corruption, on one hand, gained popularity for Xi Jinping, but on the other, make people never feel again surprised if another case happen, because the money is unbelievable. The number of money one person can steal, and that permanently destroyed the Communist Party's legitimacy. So how can you deal with this? On one hand, gain Xi Jinping popularity, huge. On the other hand, permanently damage the party's legitimacy. And how, but Xi Jinping is the head of the party. And how can things be organized here? And survivors, never underestimate survivors' ability and a realistic way of thinking. Xi Jinping needs to survive in this tricky situation. Saving the party, saving himself, or saving both party and himself. So therefore, we see opportunities here. Communist Party and the labor movement, we share the same language. And exactly the same. We cannot have labor movement without this language. And Communist Party cannot survive without this language. So this is a common area. Workers' rights, public welfare and service, all these things. And how can we use this common area to get common interests? So I would say there's a great opportunity for China to, instead of following Eastern European path and the Russia path, we have one Russia on earth, it's enough. And if you look at the Eastern European countries, after a quarter of a century, the regime changed, gained democracy. and from the social justice point of view, the democracy didn't deliver. It's not democracy it doesn't want to deliver. It's because people put too much, the leaders promise too much about democracy, and democracy cannot deliver because people did not build themselves on the ground. There was no organizing of labor, no organizing of civil society. So this is what we want to do. If we have organized labor able to bargain, democratically elect their representatives in their workplaces and bargain for their own interests. If they're not practiced well, they can be impeached. This is a democracy in practice under the communist current dictatorship regime. If the Eastern European countries and Russia had the chance to do this, I think they will be different today. So we learned a lesson from them, and we would like to go for bargaining and a union representation. If we are able to have a new union that reformed through workers' participation, this strong union will be able to help the Communist Party to make a turn into social democratic party instead of being erased from earth.